Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of MMA Vision Analysis. This one, I'm here to talk about UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi, specifically the co-main event, the co-main that happened in the middleweight division between the newcomer to the UFC, Shara Magomedov, versus Olickjaichek. But before getting started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel, your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. I said it in the previous video. I'll say it again. UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi overtook UFC 304, in my opinion, in Manchester. And that's it's very simple. All you have to do is go and look at the results of the two cards in majority. And you will see what I'm talking about. This seems to be the case for every fight night, as of late at least. And I know that's not something that just started. I think it probably has a lot to do with the fact that these guys or gals are trying to prove themselves to be on main cards. But when they get to the main cards, it seems like people practice much more caution. That was definitely the case UFC 304 in Manchester. There was a lot of fighters practicing caution, not taking risks. Of course, it's not going to make it fun for us, the fans watching. Well, at least that was the case for UFC 304 with an exclusion of 2 or 3 fights. Here, I'm here specifically to talk about UFC Abu Dhabi, specifically the fight that took place in the middleweight division between Shara and Olickjaichek. This fight, it just had everything. It had everything. Well, aside from wrestling, it didn't really have much wrestling. But aside from that, this fight had absolutely everything. In terms of striking, at least, it was a back and forth. Well, I don't want to say it was a war back and forth, but it was a back and forth in terms of Shara giving the punishment and Olickjaichek taking the punishment and having the power and the toughness to keep moving forward. So in that sense, it was definitely a back and forth. I am just getting familiar with the style of Shara, and the guy is top entertainment. Another one of those guys that come out of Dagestan, Russia. And this guy is not wrestling. He is kickboxing the majority of the time. I mean, in terms of kick thrown plus kicks landed, Shara is just something else. He was slowing down when he approached the second round. As a matter of fact, I think he started slowing down in the latter stages of the first round. Obviously, the commentators did talk about it. Throwing that many kicks fatigues you. I don't care who you are, it will have an effect on you. With that being said, Shara, yes, did slow down with the kicks, especially heading into the second round, but then his boxing came into play. When Olickjaichek thought that Shara was going to go for the kick, the guy was going for the punches. And he was able to catch Olickjaichek with some tremendous shots. All respect to Olickjaichek for having the toughness and the will and keep going forward. There's just nothing but heart, toughness. All respect to Olickjaichek. I believe he's also a newcomer to that middleweight division. I believe Olickjaichek fought at light heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken. I think he fits the division pretty good. It takes nothing away the fact that he lost to Shara. Shara is somebody who's similar to Khamzat Chimaev, I believe, and not only because they're from that part of the region, but they're the kind of fighters that will go there and you're promised that they're going to come for you. That's a good and a bad thing. Obviously, Shara's style is entertaining for sure, but I wonder how he does in a 5-round fight. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do that against a top 5 contender in the middleweight division for 5 rounds. And I'm talking about specifically kicking here. Now, So many things I want to say about Shara all at once, and I have to gather myself and say them one by one. First thing that popped into mind is that this guy's not utilizing his wrestling, and I know for certain that he can wrestle. So what I'm trying to say here is that even though he defeated Olickjaichek in spectacular fashion, I believe, and if it was anybody else aside from Olickjaichek, I believe he would have been knocked out. And all respect to Olickjaichek for having the toughness to withstand the attacks from Shara, the kicks and the punches that later on started to come in flurries, in all honesty, as the fight graduated. And then the kicks came back. But going back to Shara, the style is very, very fun to watch. Extremely fun to watch. Okay? Is it sustainable? Is it sustainable in a 5-round fight? Is it sustainable in a 5-round fight against a top 5 contender? That's my question. In all honesty, those guys up top, they're super calculated. But I wonder, how would Shara do against the Robert Whittaker? How would Shara do against a Sean Strickland? I do understand that it's a bit too early to be talking about Shara alongside those guys, but it's not going to be long. It is not going to be long. I don't know who's going to want to get in there with him in terms of top 15 guys, top 10 guys. I don't think that you're going to have any willing participants. I believe you're going to have to make guys fight Shara, and you have to incentivize them with something because I don't see why anybody would want to stand in front of this guy at this very time. Just because it's not going to make sense for a top 15, top 10 guy to face Shara. In all honesty, it's a lose-lose situation. You will be blown out of the water. The dude is way too good for the top 15 guys. It's very difficult to make these kind of statements, but with the performances that I've seen for the guy, he's just too much. And but here's the thing. Here's where I have to stop and think a little bit more. Just because, okay, he'll do really good against top 15 guys, but how does he do against the top 5 guys? Me personally, I can't expect him to give the same output as he did against Olickjaichek against a guy like, let's say, Israel Adesanya, because you will be caught. Those guys will drag you to the deep water, so to say, and they will pick you apart. You understand? They will pick their shots. They will be more composed. I'm not saying that Shara lacks composure. All I'm saying is that even though he seemed to slow down in the middle of the fight, but he did pick it back up towards the end of the fight. So the dude, yes, probably has tremendous in terms of aerobic fitness. He has lungs. He definitely can go the duration. At least that was the case last night in a 3-round fight. But how does he do in a 5-round fight against top 5 contenders? That's my question. Just because those guys are going to be much more calculated. They're not going to exert as much energy in the beginning of the fight. They will pick their timing. And I think if Shara gets that part of it right, just controlling the output, which I think there was a little bit of that last night. Just because he started off the fight, let's say he started off the fight 3rd or 4th gear. I kid you not. That's at least what it seemed like. Kicking. And if you kick before rounds, you will know that kicking, it just takes a lot more out of you. And there's no way you can do 3 rounds on a bag kicking without being fatigued. So the guy started off kicking. He did seem to slow down as the first round graduated. That was the case for the second round. He implemented more boxing, but the third round he picked it back up. So there was a little bit of that changing gears. That's something that that's only that's a quality that I believe only the cream of the crop possesses. The ability to change gears, the ability to, at a drop of a hat, change the pace of the fight. I believe only top fighters possess this quality. Not only fighters, but all top athletes. The ability to spring into action at a drop of a hat. I believe only top athletes have that ability. It's either guys go too hard or they go too slow. They can't find that sweet spot, or they stay one pace for the entire fight. But I think great fighters control their pace, and I believe Shara showed a little bit of that, and he's going to have to probably show a lot more of that against top 5 guys. You cannot expect to fight the same way against Olickjaichek against top 5 guys. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Also, one other thing to take into consideration, Shara did not wrestle. So we kind of don't know much about his wrestling. But I'm pretty certain he has pretty good wrestling. So imagine if this dude starts implementing wrestling. We are looking at least a top 3 contender in that middleweight division, if not the next champion of the middleweight division within the next year and a half, 2 years. Shara Magomedov, that is. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments and like, subscribe for more.